Texas is a unique place. When we came in the Union in 1845, one of the issues was that we would be able to leave if we decided to do that. If Washington continues to thumb their nose at the American people, who knows what might come out of that.
That was the 47th governor of Texas, Rick Perry, at the height of last spring's tea-baggery, doing a little flirting with the idea of his state seceding from the Union. The governor is back in the national news, this time for doing something and doing nothing at the same time, with fatal results. Here's the story. In 1992, 23-year-old Cameron Todd Willingham was convicted of setting a fire that killed his 3 daughters, all under the age of 3. After 12 years on death row and multiple appeals, just 4 days before Willingham's execution, Governor Perry's office did not grant a stay, despite new expert information Governor Perry said he had examined. Information from independent arson experts, which stated no evidence of arson was found. Willingham was put to death on February 17, 2004. His last words before receiving lethal injection, quote, "I am an innocent man convicted of a crime I did not commit. I have been persecuted for 12 years for something I did not do." Governor Perry now faces questions about the state's investigation into the Willingham execution, including accusations that some of his aides tried to pressure the chairman of the state's Forensic Science Commission, which is investigating the case. And while the commission was preparing a report on the validity of the arson investigation, Governor Perry chose to replace 4 of the 8 members appointed to the commission. That was just 10 days ago, 48 hours before a big public hearing on the Willingham case was supposed to be held. That hearing never happened. Yet amid all of these accusations, Governor Perry's office has refused to release any of the records the governor used on the day he reached his conclusion that Willingham was justly convicted. All these questions have created unwanted headlines for a man who would like to remain the 47th governor of the great state of Texas. He is in a tough re-election campaign against Senator Kay Bailey Hutchison and was at some point considered a possible candidate for president in 2012. Joining us now, Dallas Morning News senior political writer Wayne Slater. He's also the co-author of the book Bush's Brain, How Karl Rove Made George W. Bush Presidential. Wayne, thanks for the time tonight.
Great to be with you, Allison.
There have been 3 independent reviews over the last 5 years involving 7 of the nation's top arson experts. All found no evidence that the fire was set intentionally. So why did Governor Perry go ahead and allow this execution?
Well, basically, it's unclear why he allowed the execution. One of those reviews was presented to him before the execution. 2 of these have come afterwards. Ultimately, Texas has a very strong support among Texas residents for the death penalty. I think the governor felt that this matter had gone through the courts and that despite the fact that there had been some last-minute questions raised, he was going to let this execution continue. Had he stopped the execution, it really would have been a political problem for him, because, as I say, Texans support the death penalty.
According to reports, the governor is among the most secretive governors Texas has ever seen. In this case, he went to even greater lengths to make sure nobody saw the documents he reviewed prior to the execution. How has he managed to keep it all under wraps?
Well, basically he's arguing this is attorney-client privilege, and that is, of course, a legitimate claim. But, yeah, his predecessor, George W. Bush, and his predecessor, Ann Richards, all released these documents, the memos and records, documents that they looked at before they allowed an execution to continue. And Texas has more executions than any other state. But the governor of Texas both does not want those memos seen, because I suspect they would cast a bad shadow on the governor, just as had this report about questions whether or not this man was innocent when he was sent to the execution. Whether that hearing happened, the governor wanted to end it.
Let's talk about the commissioners, the removal of these commissioners. Governor Perry apparently removed 4 commissioners just days before a major public hearing on the case, and that personnel change led to canceling the hearing. How did the governor explain that?
Well, the governor says this is routine. He said basically the agencies who have board members come up and their terms expire all the time. The governor replaces them all the time, and that much is true. But this particular episode appears anything other than routine. I have never seen a case where a governor has moved so quickly to replace 4 members of an agency whose terms had just expired right before a critical hearing that would have embarrassed the governor. So while the governor says this was just routine, I think the evidence suggests, as some people have said, the governor simply did not want to be embarrassed by one of his own state agencies raising questions about whether he presided over the execution of an innocent man.
You touched on this earlier. He is in a bitter primary battle with Senator Kay Bailey Hutchison for the governorship. How is this affecting his bid for re-election?
Well, I repeat, Texans support the death penalty. And what the governor has done is said, look, there's a difference of opinion. Some experts at the time of the trial said he was guilty. Some what he called latter-day so-called experts, these subsequent independent analysis. These people have raised questions about whether this guy, whether the arson investigation was flawed. So if he can keep the debate as sort of a he said, she said debate, then it probably won't hurt him because Texans support the death penalty. But, you know, Texans support the death penalty as part of a social contract, a belief.
We seem to have lost Mr. Slater. Thank you for your time, Wayne Slater. We do appreciate him sharing his political reporting with us. He is the political reporter from the Dallas Morning News.